a long, roundabout type story, but essentially, I ended up accidentally falling into kind of a dev position from being a tinkerer. I got a job with Parsons. My original job plan fell through with them. Thank you, contracting. And so I ended up doing some work on the software side, first testing, and I just started coding. And then we have this cool internal program where we submit like IR&D ideas. And so I helped submit one, and then I ended up being the first person working on that project. And then it became like a real approved project, and we built a team of devs out of that. I became a product owner. Fast forward almost 2 years, and now I'm a product manager. Parsons was my first experiment. Well, not experiment, experience. We'll call it experiment too, but experience with the agile methodology. Um, and I showed up, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna have daily Scrum," and I'm like, "What's Scrum? I've never heard of this thing before." And so they sent me some resources to read. We started doing our daily syncs. We have every 2 week sprint reviews, and you kind of get into the pattern of it at first. But where it really began to hit home on how the agile methodology helps with development is when I was a product owner. But when I became a product owner, like I didn't know what I was supposed to do. And so the great Scrum Master Bob sent me this amazing link that I am going to attempt to share with y'all. Does it work to like push stream audio and video? I've never tried that through this before.
The audio doesn't work, but the video does.
So what we found the best way to stream audio is Google Documents recommend that you put your mic real close to the speakers.
Well, I'll have to adjust my audio output for that, but un momento, and I will hopefully get it working. Let's see. I'm supposed to be, I've actually, so we use like WebEx and all those jazz. I'm not a big fan. But let me change my speakers over, and, well, that's not good. Okay, can y'all still hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Yes.
Perfect. Now I can hear you guys. Okay, let me try screen sharing then. Oops. Oh, full screen.
Let's talk about agile software development from the perspective of the product owner. Here's Pat. She's a product owner. She has a product vision that she's really passionate about. She doesn't know the details of what her product is going to do, but she knows why we're building the product, and what problem it is going to solve, and for whom. She talks about it all the time. Here are the stakeholders. They're the people who are going to use and support or in any way be affected by the system being developed. Pat's vision is that these people here will love our system and use it all the time and tell their friends about it. The stakeholder needs and Pat's ideas are expressed as user stories here. For example, if this was a flight booking system, people need to be able to search for a flight, and maybe that would be one user story. Both Pat and the stakeholders have lots of ideas, so Pat helps turn these into concrete user stories. Now, somebody has to actually build a system. So here they are, a small, co-located, cross-functional, self-organizing development team. Since this is an agile team, they don't save up for a big bang release at the end. Instead, they release early and often. In this case, they usually release about 4 to 6 stories per week. So that is their capacity. Capacity is easy to measure. Just count the number of stories released per week. Some stories are big, so they count as 2. Some are small and count as a half. But all in all, it adds up to about 4 to 6 stories per week. Some people call these story points, but I'm just going to call them stories per week. In order to maintain this pace and not get bogged down by manual regression testing, the team invests heavily in automated testing and continuous integration. So every story has at least one automated acceptance test at the feature level, and most of the code has automated unit tests. The problem is, here are a bunch of stakeholders asking for all kinds of stuff, and they sure aren't going to be limited to 4 to 6 ideas per week. They have lots of ideas and lots of wishes. And every time we deliver something to them, they'll get even more ideas and ask for even more stuff. So what happens if we try to please them, try to do everything they ask for? We'll get overflow. Suppose the team starts working on 10 news stories per week. If the input is 10 and the output is 4 to 6, the team will get overloaded. That will cause multitasking, demotivation, and all kinds of bad stuff. And ultimately, it'll lower output and lower quality. It's a lose-lose proposition. It's kind of like trying to shove more paper into a printer to make it print faster, or shoving more cars onto an already crammed highway system. It just doesn't work. It just makes things worse. So what do we do about this? Well, the Scrum and XP way of avoiding this problem is called yesterday's weather. The team says, well, the past few weeks, we've finished 4 to 6 features per week. So which 4 to 6 features shall we build this week? And the product owner's job is to figure out of all possible stories in the whole universe, which 4 to 6 stories shall we deliver next? The Kanban way is to limit work in progress, or limit WIP, W-I-P. Suppose the team decides that 5 is the optimal number of stories to be worked on simultaneously. They've learned that that's just enough to keep everybody busy without causing overload. So they decide that 5 is their WIP limit. Whenever they finish one story, they'll accept one new story, thereby making sure that they never break the limit of 5 ongoing stories. Both of these approaches work fine, in the sense that the team will have just enough work to do and they'll be able to work fast and effectively. A side effect, though, is that there will be a queue forming in front of the team, and that queue in Scrum is called a product backlog. The queue needs to be managed. Suppose stakeholders keep asking for 10 new stories every week, and the teams deliver 4 to 6 stories every week. That means the queue will just keep getting longer and longer, right? So before you know it, you have a 6-month-long wish list in the backlog, and growing. That means that on average, every story that the team delivers is something that somebody asked for 6 months ago. How agile is that? So there's really only one way to stop the queue from getting out of control, and that word is no. It is the most important word for product owner, and Pat practices it every day in front of the mirror. Saying yes to a new feature request is easy, especially if it only means adding it to an ever-growing backlog. The most important job for product owner is to decide what not to build, and take the consequences of that decision. And that's why it's hard, of course. The product owner decides what goes in and what goes out. The product owner also decides the sequencing. What do we build now? What do we build later? And how long does this list actually need to be? That is a hard job, so Pat doesn't do it alone. She does it in collaboration with the team and the stakeholders. To be able to prioritize, the product owner must have some idea of the value of each story, as well as the size. Some stories are critically important, and others are just bonus features. Some stories take just a few hours to build, and others take months. Now, guess what the correlation is between story value and story size? That's right, none. Bigger doesn't mean better. Think of any system that you've used, and I bet you can think of at least one really simple feature that is very important, that you use every day, and I bet you can think of at least one huge complicated feature that is totally unimportant. Value and size is what helps Pat prioritize intelligently. Like here, these two stories are roughly the same size, but have different value. So build this one first. And over here, these two stories have roughly the same value, but different size. So build this one first, and so on. Okay, that sounds easy enough, but wait a sec. How does she know the value of a story? And how does she know the size? Well, here's the bad news. She doesn't. It's a guessing game. And it's a game that everyone is involved in. Pat continuously talks to stakeholders to find out what they value. And she continuously talks to the team to find out what they think is big or small in terms of implementation effort. These are relative guesses, not absolute numbers. I don't know what this apple weighs, or that strawberry, but I'm pretty sure that the apple weighs at least 5 times as much, and that the strawberry tastes better, to me at least. And that's all Pat needs to know in order to prioritize the backlog. It's pretty cool that way. At the beginning of a new project, our guesses will inevitably suck. But that's okay. The biggest value is really in the conversations rather than in the actual numbers. And every time the team delivers something to real users, we learn something and get better at guessing both value and size. That's why we continuously prioritize and estimate. Trying to get it all right from the beginning is pretty dumb because that's when we know the least. So the feedback loop is our friend. Prioritization is not enough though. In order to deliver early and often, we need to break the stories down into bite-sized pieces, preferably just a few days of work per story. We want this nice funnel shape with small clear stories at the front and more vague stories at the back. By doing this breakdown in a just-in-time fashion, we can take advantage of our latest insights about the product and user needs. All this stuff I've been talking about, estimating the value and size of stories, prioritizing, splitting, all that is usually called backlog grooming. Pat runs a backlog grooming workshop every Wednesday from.
So I'm going to kill it here and talk about a few concepts kind of in the video covered, because I don't want to like shove it into your brain too much, especially if y'all are unfamiliar with Scrum. Going back to our video, and y'all can still hear me, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you
Cool.
can see the thumbs up.
Yes.
Let me switch the audio back to my mic so it's a little bit better. One sec.
Okay, cool. Y'all can still hear me?
Yes.
Cool. So back to talking about this glorious presentation. So you notice the dev team size is about 4 to 6 folks. The reason it's 4 to 6 folks is if you have less, having a lot of the Scrum type ceremonies tends to take up more time than it helps, if that makes sense. So with a team of one person and they're running say the whole product backlog, they're doing a backlog prioritization, et cetera, with a team of one, that doesn't really work. And from the other end of the story, having more than about 6 devs on a Scrum team gets a little crazy, because your daily Scrum, which is kind of a 15-minute period where you talk about what you've done that day or the previous day, what you're doing today, what are your blockers, etc. It's supposed to be time boxed to 15 minutes, and it's really hard to stay under that with 6 devs. Additionally, when it comes time for sprint planning, where the development team gets together and decides what they're going to try to accomplish during the next sprint, again, it gets to be unwieldy with more than, say, 6 people on a development team. And so I'll come back to that concept, but I want to keep in mind there are some, okay, how do we make it work when the teams get larger? The other concept y'all probably saw were the user stories and sizing the user stories. I can tell you from personal experience, yes, in the beginning of a team, you suck at estimating. It's not an easy thing to do. And often the best way to start getting an idea of a good estimation is to essentially find a ticket that you were able to finish in like under an hour. And you say, okay, that was a 1. And then you find like the hardest ticket that you've had to do the past 2 sprints, and you'll rank that at like a really high number. And then you kind of start to be able to layer the other stuff in between. Value-wise, you don't really know value without talking to your customers. And that's incredibly important in the Agile process. A lot of companies that use Agile, they're cutting releases every 2 weeks. And the only way they can keep up that schedule is, of course, by having an automated CI/CD pipeline for the builds, because with manual building and manual testing, you couldn't keep that up. But if that means if they're getting it to their customer every 2 weeks, that's the opportunity for customer feedback and bug tickets every 2 weeks, which will quickly tell them what their customers hate. However, not always what your customers like. So it's really important that the product owner or the product management team is out there trying to make sure that the users, like we're actually scheduling time with the users to sit down with them and find out what their daily pattern of life is. What is their workflow? What are you trying to solve for them? And there's a whole kind of storyboarding process that you can go through. I would encourage you to look at user interface design and some of the courses around that, because they talk about building an actual like profile of your users. Because when you're thinking of what does my user want, it's a lot easier when you think, oh, hey, my user is Bob, and Bob doesn't like computers. He just wants easy ways to click buttons to do things, or hey, I have Mindy, and Mindy's really good with computers. She doesn't like interfaces that don't have a command line, or something along those lines. But back to what a user story is. Have y'all gone into the concept of writing user stories yet?
No.
No.
The only stuff that
Man.
they had to do, I wrote their user stories. So
Okay, cool. You wrote their user stories. I like that. So anyone on the dev team can write user stories. I mean, the stakeholders could submit ideas. The product owner often ends up writing a lot of the user stories. But there are several components to it. One of them is as a user. And as you're becoming more specific, you could even say as a specific user type. So if you're building some kind of software that's going to help out, it's related to the airline industry, as a potential airplane passenger. And then the next part is, what do you want, or what does the user need? Well, as a potential airline passenger, I want to be able to get to my seat as quickly as possible so that I don't stand in line forever. So you have the what they want and the why they want it, the so that. And that helps you to better understand what the end goal is. So when you complete that, and that's a pretty big user story, right? That may not be a lower level feature ticket. That may be an overall high level epic. Okay, well, the user doesn't want to stand in line forever. They want to get to their seat quickly. Okay, well, wait a minute. How do we get the user to their seat more quickly? Oh, hey, maybe we could create some kind of automated boarding system so that they don't have to individually scan their boarding passes with the agent, and they could just walk in somehow. And that's kind of where the ideas begin and the brainstorming starts. But the really crazy thing about like the feature level, the lower level user stories, is the concept of breaking them down. They have to be, or they're supposed to be, small enough in size so that they can be completed in the course of a sprint. That's a 2-week period. If you can't get it done in the course of a sprint and it wasn't because of blockers, that means you didn't break down the tasks enough. Because the worst thing that can happen, and trust me, I've been there, and in an agile type development environment, is one single ticket takes multiple sprints to complete, because that means the stakeholders aren't getting any benefit from their bi-weekly releases because you're not completing those user stories and tickets. And I guess the other important thing to consider is those tickets are stuff that are getting the stakeholders something. So sometimes it may seem almost counterproductive, right? Well, you're breaking things down into such small increments. How do you build a larger product? It's a very large deviation from something like, I don't know, the waterfall method of software development, where you build and build and build and you release this big product at the end. User stories are meant to kind of layer upon one of the other, so the stakeholders, the end users, start seeing a benefit sooner from the product, and you're able to get stuff back sooner. But that means initially they might get something that only has the very most basic functionality they need, which makes it all more important to prioritize those stories and to break them down. So I said I would talk to you about, well, what happens if you've got more than 6 devs on a project? We found that one out too. So usually you'll try breaking it down into multiple teams. So say it's a large web database. Maybe you'll have a front end team and a back end team. But wait, what if each of those teams are bigger than 6 people? Well, then you'll have maybe a front end team that focuses on this area of the page. In the backend team, one of them will be focusing on databases, while the other one focuses on things like the CI/CD pipeline. And so you end up with a lot of teams pretty quickly on a large product. And then the problem becomes, how do you sync between those teams and make sure that they are all going together on a common goal? That's a really hard one to answer, and I can tell you I have somewhat of an answer. So we are currently going through a transition now to using what's called the scaled agile framework. More like buzzwords. Let's see if I actually have my thing up. Well, here, let me see if I can find it real quick. It made me cry at first to see it, and then I started to adapt. So, no, come on, give me a better view of this. I do not like how blurry this picture is. Well, I'll give you all a link to it. But essentially, you have what's called an agile release train. Please don't laugh; it's hilarious. So you have a bunch of products that all delivered together, and scaled agile is about syncing those products together on delivery, so that you're not spending time waiting for another team to finish something during integration. And so it turns into something where you'll have a massive quarterly PI, what's called PI planning event, which is a program increment. And those are usually about once every quarter. And during that, everybody is there. Traditionally, it's supposed to be held in person. So imagine a room of 150 developers split out into breakout groups. All of them, they've got whiteboards everywhere on the wall. They're drawing out, okay, here are our priorities for the next quarter. Here's what we're going to try to deliver. Here's our plan. And then, somebody else is drawing a dependency chart in the beginning of the room, making sure that the teams are kind of going to be on par. Like it's insane. We had to do ours, of course, over the great internet, which was even more of an interesting beast. So we did our first PI planning over like completely remote, thanks to COVID. And there are definitely a lot of lessons learned. But I want to tell you about all of this scaled agile framework and agile, so that some of the core values of agile are again, it's more important to get your customer a usable product than to get bogged down in the planning for it. It's very customer centric, and even using scaled agile framework, you can adapt very quickly to changing requirements. So you're not locked into doing the exact same thing. You don't plan 2 years out in advance. Your next couple of months, you have a pretty good plan, but even a year out, it gets to be pretty blurry. And you have a lot of just concepts that are based around, you will get the product out to your customer at a time where they need it. And that's kind of the just-in-time concept. But yeah, there's my talk. Does anybody want to ask general agile questions?
I'm an agile overload.
I was too.
Lord.
Scaled agile is like, my brain hurts so much, and I have to finish the exam for that, because I just attended the scaled agile framework product owner product manager training, where they go into like ordering the release train and how to run PI planning and everything, and my brain hurts so much. Oh, what's the easiest part of agile? So for me, it actually was the daily scrums. It's especially when you can have them in person, but even if you have them virtually, everybody who needs to be there on the team is there together at the same time. A lot of times you'll end up talking about stuff that doesn't normally just come up when you're all sitting there and working. So it makes even the quiet people on the team speak up. and your scrum master is there with the team during the daily scrum, taking down like notes about any blockers. So the scrum master's job is to collect the blockers of the teams and then go around and beat up people until those blockers are resolved, especially if they're external dependencies. So they'll go to the company management and be like, your developers are blocked right now because you guys haven't given them such and such equipment, and just like yell at them a little bit. It's amazing. Yeah, exactly. And scrums are a fun event, and I argue as well that sprint reviews are really fun as well, because in sprint reviews, you are presenting to your stakeholders what you've done in the past 2 weeks or however long your sprint iterations are, but you're also presenting to each other. So sprint reviews are a great time to learn about other products that are related to yours and where they're at, and just generally to show off like the cool things you did during the last sprint. So it's supposed to be a celebration. And well, okay, now I'll keep selling it because yeah, again, I really like the whole concept. There's also the concept of a retrospective. So when your sprint's over, everybody gets around in the room and you talk about what went well, what didn't go well, how can we improve next time. Yeah, exactly. You can do this for personal projects, or if you're working on a hobby project with somebody else. But even if it's just you working on a project, there are several concepts of Agile that can directly apply to you. One of those is the concept of breaking down your work into smaller pieces and focusing on having a functional product first, rather than spending 6 months spending on a project where you don't really feel like you get anything done. Oh yeah, y'all called yourselves the dream team. I like that. So what did y'all do for your project?
For our project, we had to have 2 HTML pages, and we had to have an admin page. We had to have it as a node, so you could like do localhost with it, and then we had to put it on Heroku. So our theme for it was Cloud9 grooming coupons. And so you put your name in, and then you would put in your phone number, and then it would go into the database, and it would print out on the admin page your name and phone number, and it would be like, thank you, your name, we're going to send your coupon to your phone number. And we had to do like validation for it. Irene made a password page. We had Haley do CSS, and Shaswila do the HTML and stuff. I forgot what everybody else did, but it was great. We was awesome. We was dream team because everybody did work. We didn't have to worry about people not working. Everybody did what they were supposed to, and it was just great. It was the best group I've ever been in. Like it was awesome. But yeah, and we had a nice project manager. She was dope.
It's cool stuff. You need to get like the product owner hammer going, Morgan.
They did an excellent job with their project. I not.
And it worked. It worked.
Yep, and I wasn't able to break it. Like the only thing that they didn't handle was like some obscure edge cases. So they did an excellent job.
That's cool.
Because you know, to break things.
And edge cases are the ones that kill you. Let me tell you. Because no matter what, and that's the kind of the importance of having some external testing as well as unit testing, is as a developer, you often end up getting on blinders because you know how your product functions and what you built into it. And so you have almost some unconscious biases whenever you test to click in the workflow that you built and you've expected it to be. And so often what I have experienced in real life is you hand it to an external test group and within a few hours they've done something you never expected at all. And exactly, and one of the ways that you can kind of get around that is by having really good user profiles, like who is your end user, And so then when someone else on the team is testing someone's ticket, you can pretend that like you're a user who doesn't know anything. You kind of try to put on like the user persona hat and test from that perspective, and it tends to help a little bit. How long do you guys have left for class?
2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
So excited!
That's our baby.
Mm-hmm.
And any other general questions? You can ask me too, more about what I do, more about Parsons, whatever you want to ask.
What technologies do y'all use a lot at Parsons? What's the most important skills you would say?
So it depends on the project you're working, and our internal joke is that Parsons is a construction company. Like anytime anything goes wrong, we're like, "Oh, Parsons is a construction company," because we technically are. I would say across the board though, we've done a lot of pushing forward. So on the software development side, we are very Docker heavy. We do a lot of our our builds are essentially containerized because that makes it easier to automate in a build pipeline. We kind of prefer GitLab to say Bitbucket for building, because GitLab has an automated CI/CD pipeline that's easy to set up. We used to use Jenkins for the build pipeline in the past, and it is notoriously hard to configure. But going back to Docker, I mean, we have some of our projects. They're actually going as far as using Docker Swarm, or even going up to Kubernetes for the builds, for the build process, and for the database itself, in order to provide like high availability. We do a lot of work in Python 3. We also do a lot of work in like C for embedded devices. We have Java projects. We have front end projects. It's very very varied. Again, depending on where you work, but pretty much if you look at kind of the core type things that like I personally tell my interns to brush up on before they come work with us, is get really familiar with using Git and GitLab. Get really familiar with using Docker containers, and get familiar. We develop in Linux environment.
Right. I was gonna say
So it is command line.
right. I was curious. I was gonna say how much does Linux factor in this is using Docker, but quite a lot, I assume. So, any particular distribution or anything like just general Linux knowledge?
General Linux knowledge. So there are a lot of things you can do on the Linux command line to make your life happier. If you're going to invest time in certain things, learning how to use egrep and sed and awk will make your life so much easier, as well as just basic scripting. Like today, I had to go through and replace like all of a certain value across my project, because that's a long story. But I ended up just iterating like a one-liner on command line and got all the replaces done in like a second. Because
Nice.
you can do that with it, and just generally being able to navigate through the directory structure and find your stuff. So usually when our interns come on, we've gotten to where we have kind of a training type pipeline. So we put them through we do our own little basic Linux command line class. We talk about Git. We talk about Docker and some other things to get them spun up. But it's still a lot better to spin up on your own on those.
Okay. Thank you. I have one last question. There was one in the chat I saw that I'll go over in a second. But if you have any like resources for learning Linux or Docker or anything that you would like to share, or good places to go?
Give me a few to paste you some links, or actually, I might send them to you, Morgan, because I'll get my good set of link, and I also see one too about working from home. So yes, it was crazy for us when COVID happened, because we were all in person, and we all had to go to remote development. We do our development on a closed network. Because of our customer requirements. And so it's like, well, how do you develop on a closed network from home? So we had some experimental things going on to do what we called like remote development kits. It's basically a VPN appliance with a laptop, and we'd been doing like testing, some very limited case testing in some cases. Well, within a week and a half period of time, we turned that from conceptual to now we have 150 developers with remote kits. So logistically, it was insane, and the amount of time, like the amount of time our shipping guys put in was outrageous to get it all done, because and our network team to get it all configured. But I mean, it like all worked out, and so we have, full video conferencing ability. I'd say the biggest downside about the remote dev is right now we don't have a really good like pair programming solution. And we've got screen sharing, but we don't have the ability to like it's just screen sharing. It's not like the other person can sit and click and interact with your computer. So that makes it a little bit harder for some things. Yeah, they didn't kick us out with the computers quite like that. It was like they're like, okay, you're gonna be taking your stuff home. We're gonna get you the things you need to be equipped to do remote work. And so we had only like very limited effects as far as our schedule because of it. And in my opinion, it's actually been really positive, because we were already kind of a distributed company in that we had a couple of different locations, and the smallest one was probably our Augusta. It is our Augusta office, and we always kind of felt isolated from like the main big office. In person they had a lot of interaction. It was kind of hard to call them and get a hold of them, some other things. But when all of us went full remote, it's like everybody's in the same boat now. And so it's actually resulted in us having a lot better communications between the sites because of that. Any other questions?
Just so y'all know, Sharon is also on our Slack, so you can Slack her questions and that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, you can find me. And for those of y'all who want to do remote development, I mean, so many companies have moved to it at this point. It's a lot easier, in my opinion, to find jobs that allow you to work remotely. I mean, there are some companies that are literally shutting down their office space, and they're like, okay, everybody's just going to work from home. So I look forward to see kind of how that evolves in the future. But I think it's really going to speed up, like the transition to kind of a freer environment. I think. I know office is great. Don't get me wrong. I like seeing people in the office, but it's really nice to work from home when I'm too lazy to crawl out of bed. All right. Well, I owe y'all links. I'll get them. I'll get them to you, Morgan. And yeah, have a great time. Good luck.
Thank you so much for speaking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
She's cool. I like her.
I like Sharon a lot. She is a very, very nice lady. Because she's like that all the time. Like, you can talk to her at like 11 o'clock at night, and that's just how she is. She's a cool dude. I like her a lot. All right. So, Susie, were you going to say something?
Oh, I was typing.
So what I want to do, pants are for chomps. What I want to do is I'm going to really, really quickly finish the data privacy stuff. I want to talk about PCI compliance, and then we'll take another little quick break, and then Damien's going to come talk. Damien was in the first batch that I taught the whole class for. He's my baby. Don't tell him that, though. Don't tell him I said anything nice about him. Don't tell him nothing. He's a good guy, though. He's a wonderful person. He's been working at SecureGive since he graduated. Ask him questions about his process. Ask him about what he did to really set himself apart from like the rest of the class. What he's doing right now, what he learned, like all that kind of stuff. So that's what we're gonna do. So real fast, let me reshare my screen, and then let's talk about PCI compliance. PCI compliance is probably going to be one of like the things that you actually interact with the most. So like HIPAA compliance is important, GDPR and CCPA compliance is good. And like, you know, hopefully we get to work for a company that doesn't do shady things with people's data. But PCI compliance is super important. Like ethics aside, PCI compliance is really important. Yeah, exactly. PCI is like HIPAA, but for personal and payment information. Exactly. So payment card industry data security standard. Oh, normally people don't say the DSS part. They just say PCI. What it's saying is like, if you are processing people's credit card or debit card information, you have a responsibility to keep that data secure. So you don't just like, you know, keep people's credit card data stored in a database, plain text. You don't unencrypt traffic. You don't, you know, share credit card information and all of that. Here's what I do for PCI compliance. I pay for someone else to do it. You real quick. Feel free to unmute yourself. There's just background noise. So yeah, so this is what we really care about is like, let's look at the 6. That's like time over money. What do you mean?
Paying someone else to do it versus you doing it.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and the other thing is responsibility. So like using something that I know is a trusted system is going to reduce my responsibility. So I use Stripe. I use Stripe for all my stuff. It's very easy to use. And then the PCI compliance burden is on them, not me. So if something happens, it's not my responsibility. I don't have to fix it. Stripe does. And like you can't always do that, but like for a lot of stuff, like you want to make a WordPress site, you want to make something for like a local charity, you were doing something for credit cards. Yeah, all kinds of payment. Mm-hmm. And then you can also do other stuff to help with this kind of PCI compliance, like, you know, PayPal. You can, you know, Amazon Pay, all of that kind of stuff means that you don't have to process the credit card information, which is really nice. Also, because yeah, exactly. Like it's just a nice thing to make it not have like put card holders at risk. Make sure your network and all your like physical things are actually secure. Strong access control. So like, you know, the admin who has access to the database's password shouldn't be password. That's part of PCI compliance. Maintaining an information security policy means that like you are thinking about what this pieces of information look like and what you're going to do to actually make it happen. You can read the actual whole thing if you want to do that. I'm just going to show you Stripe real fast because like genuinely like you're doing small independent development, Stripe is the way to do it. Because you got two options here. You can you set everything up and then all you do is you pay the little fee for them to process the credit card for you, which is really nice. And it's like super cheap. It's like 3%. And like, that's not bad at all for like credit card payment processing. Or you pay like $200 and they set it up for you. So like, it's real nice. It integrates with a whole bunch of other stuff. You can use it with like all of like the Shopify, Magento, Squarespace, like it all just works. Yeah, PayPal. PayPal does it too. This is mostly for like you want to be able to take, yes, just so you have options. Yeah, this is what I really like. I use this. I also really like this part of Stripe. This is their fraud detection stuff. It's nice. I like it a lot. But they also write really good documentation, which is really nice with code samples. It's real nice. Look at that. Anyways, I really enjoy this. Yes, PayPal, like I have never developed with PayPal, but like I've developed with Stripe. It's very easy. It reduces compliance burden. It's very easy to integrate. They don't charge a lot to process credit cards. Like they also, using Stripe can also like lower your stress on your end user too, because it does that fraud protection and it does a bunch of security stuff too. I like Stripe. It's what I use for small business processing payment. You can also integrate Stripe and Square. So if you want to like, you know, have a pop-up or something, it's pretty easy to have a Square payment and a Stripe payment plan. It's pretty easy to use them together. So those are like the four like big boys of data privacy.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
What is Square? You mentioned that one. Is that just like a UI for credit cards?
Square is the company that makes the physical payment processing things. So like they make online payouts and you know those tiny white credit card processing units?
Yeah.
That's Square.
Okay.
Yeah, so Square is really great. Like if you want to, if you're going to have some kind of physical thing, like, you know, your flea market or whatevs, that's Square.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've seen that. So it just integrates with Stripe, integrates with that super well is what you're getting at? Okay.
Yeah, and like you can play with both of these and they're really, really nice. If you are starting with Square, you can just keep everything with Square, but if you start with Stripe, you can go in with Square, and they work pretty well together. But if you started with Square, I would just stick with Square, just so you have less stuff to do. But yeah, tested that when they were getting started, yeah. I use Square a lot. I've used it from like when I worked for the canal all the way up to like when I did like big, you know, jewelry sales and all that kind of stuff. It's just nice. But yeah, so those are my like personal recommendations of things to do, because you totally can build your own credit card validation service and all that. But like, why? most of the time, especially for most smaller businesses, and by smaller businesses, I mean like less than 100 people. So like we're still talking like stores and like companies and stuff. Like a whole hospital, maybe you wouldn't want to use Stripe, but like a doctor's clinic, you can probably use Stripe. One store, you can use Stripe. Managing an entire franchise, maybe you need to build out a bigger solution. Hospitals tend to use really old systems, and so you're going to be looking at like very old point of sale systems. It costs money to update things. A lot of hospitals still use like DOS systems. Like I went to my dad to a chiropractor appointment, and like the doctor turned around to fill out some forms, and it pulled up a terminal. Boy, I thought I was going to have like a stroke. Should people be concerned? Medium. There's two problems with using these legacy systems. One is there's not a lot of people who know how to do it. And so like if something goes wrong, it can be really hard to fix the systems. VA still advertises for COBOL programmers. I was actually talking to the dude who owns the book tavern about COBOL. We talked about it for a while. But yeah, so like a bunch of this stuff is built in these old programming language that nobody knows anymore. And so like, so he might have some COBOL books. Also, he has a whole tech section, and most of the books in the tech section are books that I picked for him to put in. So go support local businesses. He has a copy of Cracking the Coding Interview. Highly recommend. They're downtown. They're on Broad Street. Wear a mask. They're by New Moon. So one thing is that it's hard to maintain these systems because they're older. The second thing is because it's hard to maintain the physical infrastructure to support these older systems. But they're super cheap to run, and they work, and they're very hard to break into because nobody knows how to write in COBOL. So it's almost like security through obfuscation. So it's expensive to update it. It's really hard to update legacy code. And, you know, right now, nobody super is like on it. Like it eventually is going to be a problem that has to be fixed. Oh, that also does introduce the concept of tech debt. And tech debt occurs when you make a decision that costs you work time later. Yeah, it's not fixed. Yeah, it's not broken yet. Yeah, you know, it works. Like you have to train the doctors how to type in a terminal, but like, you know, it works. But mostly it's money. And like at this point, because it's so old, it's almost a security thing. Yeah, like if you know how to use all that stuff, it is fine. Like it's not super slow. It's definitely not like using like a Windows 95 computer to run like a new program. You know, it's like a 3 meg program because they only had like 3 megs to write the program. It's like, you know, you launch like a Pokemon game on like a, you know, a brand new computer, then you'd be like, wow, it's so fast. All right. Yeah, the Pokemon Sword and Shield games look cute. Only machine that ran the plasma cutter. That makes sense, yes. That's why I have my old MacBook. It's because it's the only thing that runs my drawing tablet. And yeah, I know. I'm cheap and I should just get a new one. I know. Maybe one day. Maybe now that I have a real job, I might get one. All right. Let's take a quick, like 5-minute break. I'm on a price brand. Let's come back. It's not going to be quite a 5-minute break. Fancy. So let's come back at 3. Just a quick, you know, get some water. And then Damien will come talk. 2 min. Okay. You can be a little late because Damien's probably just going to talk for a bit anyways. So take like a 5-minute break and then come back at 3-ish. Ruby? Okay, I'll see you guys soon. All right. So I told Damien we were doing a quick break, and I told him that we were ready. So he should be joining us in just a second, and then we will get to getting. I don't really have anything. You want to come here? You want to say hi? Come here. Come, baby. Come on. Up, up, up. Here, baby. Come on. Yep, up, 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 up. Where's the baby? My baby. She's like
Gail Valls usually talks about
Linux.
Linux every. Okay, yeah. That's what I thought.
Yep, that's what she teaches. She's been doing it longer than you and I have been alive.
Maybe I should talk to her about I should talk to her too about resources. I think there's a lot of value in learning it. The more I do some of this IT stuff, Linux becomes more and more valuable of a tool.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Maybe it's a good idea to talk to her.
Yeah, I can, when I finish my Docker class, I'll share that login with you, and you can take the Docker class I'm taking too.
Awesome, that'd be great. Yeah. I'm also they're doing some CompTIA stuff here, so I'm gonna be taking all that stuff. I'll be taking A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus. I'm not gonna take the tests, but I'm gonna show up for the classes.
Sounds good too.
Hopefully, we'll have many knowledges.
That's always the goal, is to have many knowledges.
Exactly. There's Mr. Damien.
Hello. It's been a long time here. So long now.
I know, right? How? Yeah, it's pretty long.
I'm doing good. I have a new friend. It's Fetty.
Ooh. You pop them up and just make down, just like, here he is, bye.
But she doesn't like when I hold her like this. She gets real angry about it.
Yeah.
She's purring
Cats
though.
are finicky like that.
Yeah.
How's everybody doing?
Awesome!
I love how so much excitement and happiness came from the person that's named Angry Bird. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's always like that.
24/7.
Yep.
Awesome, man. All right, so what are we doing? It's
It's
on
your
me
show.
or? Hmm?
I say it's your show.
Yeah. Where is everyone at? How far along in the course is everyone?
We are finishing week 11.
Oh, well, y'all made it then. How does everybody feel?
I feel awesome and excited!
Yeah. That is wonderful. Did anybody think they weren't going to make it this far?
Me. Week
Yeah.
2 breaking point for me. I was like, what the? Because I have no background in programming or coding or whatever. Nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, zero. So week 2, I was like, okay, I'm going to take this computer and throw it out the window.
Yeah, that's completely normal. It's a very common way to feel. And I experienced the exact same thing every single day. Morgan did not spare us any. And I'm grateful to this day that she did not, because it has helped me to find employment and to make sure that I had the skills I needed to be a good developer. So, but I guess what I'll do is I kind of just tell you what my background was. I look at all that encouragement, man. Y'all are awesome. So I'll just give you kind of a background where I came from, because I'm like you. I didn't have any background with any of this. I actually started off with nonprofit work. I actually was one of the case managers that assisted with some of the funding that they had to have, or maybe, but I was one of the individuals that helped other people go through the program. And I just kind of got stuck where I was and decided like, hey, I think I'm gonna try to switch it up and try to do something different. So I actually ended up going through the same program. The only thing that I had ever touched was CSS or HTML. And that was because I did design work on the side that I taught myself. Outside of that, didn't do anything else. So came in, didn't even know that I was learning JavaScript. Didn't know any of that. I was like, all I know is that I'm going to be a developer. I'm going to do, full stack work. I didn't know anything. So
Yeah, same here. Same here.
yeah, and it was a really crazy ride. But I can say the first week was really rough.
Mm-hmm.
It was the equivalent of hell for me. So, but like I said, I'm really grateful because throughout the whole time, there were moments where I didn't know if I was retaining the information, if I truly understood, or if I was just kind of going through the motions.
Yeah, me too. Like
Yeah,
when
even
I'm in class, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then when I'm at home doing it by myself, I'm like, blank.
yeah,
And then it'll slowly come back. But I'm like,
yeah. So, what do you feel like you are now? Like, you feel confident in what you've learned so far, or?
I wouldn't say confident. Do I know
Mhm.
more than I knew before? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah, I just need to practice more. I just have to, do some side projects and stuff like that. That's what I'm working on now. Just
Gotcha.
doing some side projects. And,
Yeah, that's one of the best things you can do. And it's really weird. So, went through the course. Like I said, didn't know if I was coming, going left or right. Didn't know what was going on. And by the end of it, I actually got a job lead, and that December, maybe like a week or so after completing the course, actually had an interview.
oh wow.
And yeah, and end up getting employed that the following January.
Dang.
So yeah, crazy, right? And I
Yeah.
was so nervous. That being said, what I've learned, thank you, Miss Oliphant. But what I've learned is that one of the biggest things about development is that you're always learning.
Yeah. I like
Like,
that part. I like that part.
yeah, and I love it too because I like to learn. But then there are
Yeah.
days where I'm just like, I want to stop learning, but I
Yeah.
can't because this is keeping me employed.
Mhm. How
But
was the interview?
what's that?
How was the interview?
Um, it felt honestly like everything felt a lot like the classroom environment, at least from my opinion. Like even like the work I do now, um, it doesn't really vary much from how we were at the clubhouse or it's just the structure of the class. Like we'll get up and have a meeting and do a stand up. We'll all share what we have going on, what we had going on last day before, what we have going on today, and what we're going to be working on and everything. And we're all sitting around trying to figure something out. That's what we just do every day. Like, how do we get this thing to work? And which is practically what we did in class every day. You were taught a lesson, we taught a concept, and she would say, "Hey, make this." And that's practically what I do every day. Like my first week of work, they asked me to make a carousel, an image carousel. Well, actually told me to fix it, and I couldn't fix it because the dependencies were deprecated, so I couldn't update it. So they were like, "Well, I guess we just have to make one." So they're like, "Just go make one." Didn't tell me how, didn't tell me what I needed. I just said, "Go make it," and that's what I did. I went and figured out how to make it, and it felt a lot like class. And it's very collaborative. You sit around and talk, and if you need help, you ask someone, can they help you? They might know. They don't know. They got to figure it out too. But the interview, it felt like an interview. Like, you have that sense of, like, I don't know if they're going to like me. I don't know if I'm like them. And also, I think because they knew that I did a boot camp, I went through a boot camp, and that I was coming in from an entry level position, like from an entry level place, they approached it from that place with me. So they
Awesome.
didn't expect me to know what a mid level or senior level developer would know. So our interview was kind of based on some basic things. And they even then just asked me, really just asked me if I could understand some of the aspects of their code, which was written wasn't written in JavaScript.
Oh no.
Yeah, but and I was just honest. I was like, well, that looks familiar. I was like, that looks like a method that looks like it may be doing this or that. And I say, oh, is that returning this here? Just to let them know I'm engaged. I'm trying to understand that I do have some basic understanding.
Mm.
And even in that, we went from that and then started talking about database stuff. And he was like, what's a relational database? What does that look like? I said, well, I can draw one up. He like, sure, I can draw the relationships. And I didn't answer everything right, but me showing that I was willing to try to figure out and not freeze up and not give up in the middle of it. That was, that I think that's what really gave them an impression like, oh, this is somebody that can work for us. Because honestly, and I've heard this a lot too from different people that are in development, that I can teach you how to code, but I can't teach you what you need to be a developer. You know what I mean? Which is like, you have to be able to like be willing to be persistent and really try to solve the problem and not give up and be collaborative, because you can, it's easy to get up in front of a group of people and say, hey, this is, this is what a variable is and this is what that is. But that only goes as far as you take it. There's a special sauce that you can't just like that. Absolutely. And I think that's what makes a difference, because like I said, I know I got a job like right out the door, but I think it was because my mindset, like I left the class with the mindset of, you know what, even though I don't feel 100% confident, I know that what coding is really about and what development is really about is being willing to solve a problem.
Okay.
Even if that means I got to Google it or that means I got to ask someone.
Yeah, gotcha.
Got to beat my head against the table for hours and then take a break and then come back.
Yeah.
So just have an attitude. And I think that's what, because I know the boot camp can be frustrating. And I don't know what y'all's experience was like since you've done it remotely, but I know it can be frustrating. But what I felt like was really trying to be taught was having the mindset of trying to be a problem solver versus I'm gonna teach you what JavaScript is. Like JavaScript's the icing on the cake, because when you really get into development, you really learn that all of those languages are really the same. They're really the same at the core. And so once you learn some of them, you can figure the rest of them out. So
what was your first job?
I've been here since January.
Oh.
Yeah, I work for a company called Secure Give. They're a software company that does like payment management for churches, organizations, and they just started building their in-house development team. So I was one of their first junior developers they hired. So, and then we've been just fleshing out our team since January. And I can say that, I went in, I remember January, I could think back and I was just like, I barely had an idea what methods were, because that was one thing I struggled with in class, was like what a method was. Mm-hmm. And I barely understood that. I barely understood a lot of things, but since I could say now I feel a whole lot more confident as a developer. If you hand me something, I'm pretty sure I could get it done. Put these in, but that came from, like you were saying, taking that time out of my personal time to practice, doing coding exercises. I even redid our group project that we did at the end of the course. I redid it by myself because I was like, I was talking to other developers, and they were like, oh, I could have done that. One person, I was like, oh, well, let me get to where I can do it by myself. Mm. What do you guys do for your group project? Morgan, have they done that group project yet?
Yeah, we did it. It worked.
Yeah, they did a similar one. It just, since it's remote, I just basically dropped the email validation, but it's the same project.
Gotcha. Yeah, we did a sign-in app. It had a front end, back end, had a database. Look at it. I feel like I'm missing stuff in the chat. Oh, you gave me the link. Awesome. Thank you. I'm gonna look at it. But yeah, we built that. I forgot. I think I worked on the back end with one of our other classmates just because during our course, that was well, I always threw myself in. Oh, I like it. I like the animals. The Dalmatian looks like he don't take any mess. He don't play. But yeah, I always threw myself in something that seemed difficult or that seemed like it was going to be challenging because I wanted to learn it. And honestly, like the best thing you can do when it comes to coding is just throw yourself in it.
Yeah, I was in the back end too. Let me tell you,
Yeah,
it's no joke. It
it
ain't.
is no joke. Yeah, and see, they hired me as a front end developer at my job, which I'm kind of glad. I'm glad they did.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the same
um,
thing after this project. I was like, I think I'm gonna
yeah,
switch to the front end.
but I will tell you, there is money in back end development, though. There is money because there's a big need there, and a lot of responsibility and security lies a lot in the back end too. There's stuff you can do on the front end, secure for security purposes, but like um, a lot of the meat and bones and you know the meat of what a lot of companies are is in their back end. So if that's something you're interested in, I say go for it. But you got to make sure that you know what you're doing though.
Yeah, okay. Let me get a job first, and then.
Yeah, and so yeah, my plan right now is to really develop my front end development skills to where I feel really confident and secure that I can, maybe say I'm like a mid-level developer, and then start working on some back end skills so that I can maybe market myself as like a full stack developer. Like even though the course gave me full stack knowledge, but like it wasn't developed, like my front end skills weren't developed until I got here.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so my plan now is like, okay, let me in this environment where it's very collaborative. I have a support system. I have coworkers that like are willing to like sit there and like talk to me and like teach me certain things. Because one thing about coding is like there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? Like you get the same problem done like 5 different ways, but then some ways are better than others. And what you'll notice is more oh, I'm sorry. No no cats were harmed in in the making of this video. But no, but you'll find like when you're around more experienced developers and senior level developers, they'll have tried and true ways. You know what I mean? Like what Morgan gave you is going to be something that's just going to help you to understand. Like if she taught you like some of the other different ways of doing things, then it will probably confuse you more than anything else. But as you develop and grow, like you'll start learning certain things that really will make you stand out as a developer. And just connecting yourself with individuals like in the community. Like some of the events that they have that the clubhouse sponsors, like that's really good. And just asking some of those people like, hey, show me some pointers. Like how do you try to think of something that I struggle with? Yeah, the kitty's okay. I love animals too.
Yeah, Lumien's a softie.
Yes. But yeah, like your mindset. So I would say once you guys finish your 12th week, don't just sit on your skills. Don't just sit on your hands. Like continue, even if you throw your bait out there and nobody bites. Like make sure you're still working on projects. Make sure you're still submitting some code to your GitHub. Like make sure that you're doing those things. Like I even I created an Instagram page. I know she may have suggested you guys do that. I created a separate Instagram just for my developer persona. And I posted, I even took a picture that made me look a little nerdy. Like, I embraced it. I have a lot of responsibility. Yes, absolutely. Because writing code is the one thing that my persona name, Damien the Dev.
Damien the Dev.
Her.
Yeah, I'll post it.
Okay.
Damien the Dev on
Look
Instagram.
at it.
Yes.
Nerdy picture.
Haven't posted in a while, but yeah, but just doing things that can not only sharpen your skills, but that'll also show employers that, hey, this is something that I'm invested in, but oh, this is something I'm passionate about, and also I'm capable of doing those things too.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, even, I know you asked about interview earlier, like if you do get an interview, best piece of advice I can give you is to, if they ask you to look at some code or something, or to code something, be verbal about what you're doing, and don't just do it all in your head, because they'll let them know what you're thinking and how you're thinking.
Mhm.
If you don't understand something, there's nothing wrong with saying you don't understand, or asking, hey, I think this does this, but is that quite right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they want to know that you're capable of figuring it out. Not necessarily that you're going to, but that you have the capability of doing it.
Okay.
Anybody have any other questions? Do you have any more questions?
Ooh, that's nerdy. It's a cute picture though. I like it.
Oh, you're looking at my. Yeah. Okay, I'm looking at Haley. Your comment says, how do you know what to post on social media? I don't really use it, but I need to start posting things. I just don't know what to post. Okay, so this is just been me. So I'm really good at emulating things. Like I can look at most things and just look at how it's implemented and kind of figure out how to reverse implement it. So what I did was I looked at other developers that have profiles, and just saw how they posted and what things they talked about. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I can do some of that. Like, I may not know how to do some of the high level stuff, but maybe I can just share like, oh, hey, this is something I worked on in class and I thought it was pretty cool. And I, showed a picture of the code, or showed a picture of what it turned out to be, or if I got stuck somewhere, like, oh, I'm working on this thing, but I'm stuck here, just little snippets, just little snippets. But I would say definitely like, just take a look at what other people are doing and kind of see what kind of resonates with you, and just maybe, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with copying someone else, as long as you're authentic with it yourself. Like art, I think all art is borrowed anyway. I don't think there's no such thing as completely original art. I think it's an amalgamation of different things that people repurpose. So.
Oh, look at you, all fancy.
Yeah. Every once in a while. The 3 laptops at one time. Yeah, that was class. That was when we were working on our class project. We had 3 laptops. And Kenna, like that guy, I wonder what he's doing now.
He is trying to write software to convert Nigerian currency into American currency.
Of course he is.
Yeah, he messaged me like a month ago and he's like, hey, do you know how to do this? And I was like, no. He's like, okay.
That guy was smart. Hey, I don't even know why he was in the class, but no, he was
I think he just wanted something to do. I think his mom was like, "You're not staying home. Bye."
Right. It probably kept him out of trouble. Let's see. Any other questions?
Could you talk a little bit about I'm going to ask you 2 questions. One is, can you talk a little bit about not Hacktoberfest, Hack Atlanta?
Hack Atlanta.
Yeah, and then if you could talk a little bit more about, like, what was your experience from transitioning from class to work?
Okay. So Hack Atlanta, that was the hackathon that we went to. It wasn't a traditional hackathon. It was one where it was like part hackathon, but part like business, entrepreneur, incubator, startup thingy. That was really fun. Like that, a group of us just got together and just like, hey, let's go do this thing. And so we went down to, I think it was like create a business in 24 hours. We all came up with the idea of creating an app that linked businesses or like grocers that have food waste with organizations like Golden Harvest or Golden Pantry that would use that type of stuff, to distribute to people that are less fortunate, that are in need of stuff, that kind of stuff. And we just came with this concept and just went to work to flesh out the whole idea. And we didn't get a chance to build it, but we did prototype it. We prototyped it using Adobe XD, and we had a somewhat functional version of it. We actually made it to the final round of the competition. Yeah,
Oh,
and yeah, if it hadn't been for this medical brain scan thingy, I forgot what it was, we probably would have at least ranked. So yeah, it was a really fun experience, and it was a really big confidence booster because it, like, looking back on it now from where I am, like I realized like how much that emulated like real work environment, because building an app like is not a one person job. Like we're actually currently rewriting our app right now. So and it's taking all of us to do it, and it's taking everybody's ideas and input and critiques and all that kind of stuff. So it was really fun. And Hacktoberfest is coming up. I also participate in that. I'm doing that too, and I encourage anybody else that's interested in just finding something to do. Make sure you participate in the Hacktoberfest. It's a really big open source activity that happens every year, and it's a good way to give back and also like just learn how to connect with people and collaborate. And last year I didn't get I contributed, but it was really small. Hardcore helped me out, so I'm thank you, Hardcore. But this year, I'm hoping to actually contribute something bigger and work on something bigger, since I'll kind of develop my skills. But as far as transitioning into there he is, man. Appreciate that. Somebody was asking like, "What did you do? Like, what did you work on?" My coworker was like, "What did you build?" I was like, "Oh, I added my pixel to a piece of art." I added a colored pixel to some online art. But as far as transitioning from class to work, like it wasn't bad. Like I remember, when I got my interview, before I got my in-person interview, it was they sent me a project to do, and it was, like I said, felt like something I did in class, like how we're gonna say, hey, I want you to build this, and here goes some instructions, go do it. And that's what they did. They sent me that. They're like, I want to see if you can build this. He was like, it should take you about 2 hours to build it. So once you finish doing it, upload it to GitHub and I'll take a look at your code. I did it. It took me 3 hours to do it. So did that, sent it to him, and he eventually got back to me, said I did a good job. So he invited me to a in-person interview. Did the interview. Like I said, I didn't know everything, but I was very, vocal, ask questions, try to think of the things I did know and try to focus on the things I did know and be, so I can, kind of brag on those kind of things, emphasize them. And then after that, they, some time went by. I was like, oh, well, but they ended up calling me back and giving me a job offer.
Nice.
I accepted the job offer. Ended up coming in, I think it was January 13th, but came in, first day was just like the first day of class, just setting up everything.
Yeah.
Like that is all I did all day was set up passwords, log into this, log into that, get access to this, get access to that. Let me set my machine up. I got to make sure I install Java. I got to make sure I install Node. I got to install NPM. I got to do all this. Got all the environment set up. Like it was that for probably like the first day or two. And then after that, they kind of slowly started showing me around their app, their application. And because we're a small team, and we had a high demand for some features to be finished up at the time. They went ahead and just kind of threw me in.
Nice.
and he told me, he was like, normally he would probably let me wait a little longer before I actually test some code. But he actually went in, threw me in, and I got to work on some stuff. And we just switched from doing sprints here. We were doing agile project management. When I first started, we just recently switched over to Kanban. But normally with agile, we do a stand up every day. We would take like 10, 15 minutes every day, go around the circle. Everybody share what they did the day before, share what they're doing the day. I was like, well, I didn't do anything yesterday because I just started, but today I'm starting. And we just do that every day, make sure we're up to speed on everything. If we have any issues, the rest of the day is just like looking at code, trying to figure things out. And we'll have meetings where we'll sit down and review everything and see what's upcoming and see what needs to be worked on, who needs to work on what. And that's kind of when you figure out what you're going to be working on for the next week or next couple of weeks, depending on how long your sprints are. But transition was fine, man. It starts off kind of slow when you first start because you got to get everything set up, which takes time, and then you have to start learning that particular stack that they're using for their application. And that takes a little time to wrap your mind around sometimes, just depending on what the application is and what they're using to make everything run. Like our application, we're using some language that hardly nobody uses. So that's interesting. But
what language is that?
Scala, which is it stands for scalable language, but it's based off of Java.
Okay.
So yeah, and I rarely touch it. We use our back end. I have touched it, and like I said, it's somewhat understandable because like I said, the basic features. Most languages share some of the same basic features, but yeah, it's a whole beast. But doing front end, I usually don't have to touch it most of the time. I just usually have to understand what it does.
Okay.
Like how it's sending data from the back end. So even if you're front end, it's still good to know how the back end works, know how it works with the front end, and because when you're working with the front end, you're gonna have to you're gonna be probably making calls to the back end a good bit, and you're gonna want to know how those calls correspond with the front end, and if something needs to be re-implemented or changed in some kind of way. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. It'll just make you a better developer all around, even if your focus is just front or back, like just knowing both to help out.
Gotcha.
I said, same, I need money. Good job. There are plenty of jobs out there, man. One thing I know is that people are hiring. So when I got this job, I actually had another employer reach out to me and invited me to apply for their position. It was a job in New York.
Ooh,
and it was remote, and it started off at $80,000.
Yeah, but New York is expensive.
Yeah, but I could live in Georgia though and work the job.
Oh,
it was remote, yeah. But it was like it was front end, and it was like, but you need 2 to 3 years of experience.
Oh yeah.
So there were jobs there, but that's what I'm saying. Like, find you somewhere where you can feel comfortable to learn. That you feel like it's going to create an atmosphere for you where you can really develop a work. Because that's why I chose this job, because it was between this and another employer, and I really felt like the culture of my job was really good for me because for one, it's a small group. We're a small group, so I thought someone's calling me, but yeah, we're a small group, and so I felt like I would be able to better. Just have that safety net, you know what I mean? And be able to, it's kind of like in class, I can turn to this person like, hey, can you point me in the right direction, instead of being a really big corporation where it's like, it's just a cog in the, yeah, you know what I mean? Cog in the machine. So I would say make sure that you develop yourself just as a developer. Make sure you just kind of like keep even if you don't have a job, like find projects to do and make sure you're developing yourself and find things that are relevant. You know what I mean? Relevant to what people are using right now.
Okay. Sweet.
Angry Bird is hilarious.
She is.
I love your personality. I was reading what she said.
She has like the worst jokes though ever.
You guys thought my jokes and puns were bad? ZZ took the cake.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
Y'all would hear my technical director.
Dude,
He
you really
tells
think it's
puns all
funny?
day.
You what?
Yeah.
I'm always like, dude, you think that's funny? Really? And she'd be laughing, man. I mean, like rolling laughing at her
I would
own.
probably laugh at the jokes too. I laughed at everybody's jokes, then I'm more good.
I don't.
I laughed at it. I think everything's funny.
It's because
Any
you
other
got a
questions?
little kid. And so you're like, yeah. It's because you got a little kid. So you're like, yeah.
You have to think everything's funny. He tells jokes all day, and I'm like, that's not funny, but I'll laugh. Yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I do. Hey, Damien, would you like to
Yes,
speak
sir.
again next boot camp?
Sure. For what though?
I can get back to you on anything. I'll probably
Okay.
just start an email chain with you, and I'll get a better sense of like what you at Secure Give, and we'll find a way to incorporate it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't mind at all. Because at this point, like, my whole thing is just trying to help people that are trying to come into this field, like helping me feel more comfortable. Because I know for me how challenging it was, how uncertain. Because like it was a whole career change. You know what
Absolutely,
I mean? So
Klasse. Ich bin gerade
do I
in
have
der Klasse.
LinkedIn?
Ich bin gerade in
Yes,
der
I do have LinkedIn.
Irene, I'm gonna mute you.
Oh yeah, thank you. Sorry.
You're muted, Damien.
My bad. I was trying to mute Irene and I muted Damien. My bad.
I'm good.
You're absolutely right though. Like it's all about like determination and like not letting stuff beat you and like always having like that kind of problem solving mindset. And like I learned that stuff first as a mechanic, and then you roll it over to computers. So like it doesn't matter what you do. It's just it's a big change for a lot of people, but if you have that mindset, you can be successful. And having that passion. All the employers over 3 boot camps always said that same word. Like you need to show me that you're really like this is what you want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's exactly once I got on, they were like, the reason why we decided to bring you on is because we felt like, you weren't gonna give up like in the middle of a problem. You weren't gonna just freeze up and just stare at the screen. Like, they liked the fact that I was determined to figure it out and to not give up just because I was frustrated. So trust me, whatever you're feeling in class, there's gonna be a lot of that going forward. So if you're not gonna get used to it now, you're not gonna get used to it. So I would say work on developing that can do, not give up attitude, no matter how hard it gets. Even if you gotta learn how to like take breaks and stuff, or like, just learn how to cope with it. I think that's a good thing to learn now.
Because Damien has seen me have a complete meltdown. So like he knows like sometimes it gets there. Like he's seen me get so frustrated with stuff that I just have to like lay on the ground for a bit.
Or walk away into the sunset.
Yes, Damien has seen me get so upset with someone that I just left. So,
whoa,
that's
very important. Yes,
it happens sometimes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let me see. I'm gonna read some of these. It says, "So what steps do you plan to take next now that you have this job?" Like I said, man, just really developing myself so that I can, going forward, be marketable as a mid-level front-end developer. Because for one, you make more money the higher you go, but also too, just feeling like I'm good at my job or better at my job, and being able to mentor other people. I do have a desire to create some type of something for in the community where we can offer some type of entry level education to kids so that they can be more exposed. I know, some education institutions are doing that, but I just want to be able to create a space for people like me, because I'm like, I wish I would have been doing this straight out of high school, but I didn't have it in front of me, so I never even thought about it.
Yeah, me
So
too.
somebody like me, being a young black man, and coming from a rural area, what I mean, offering, just having that as an option. So I want to eventually do something like that. And also be able to, like I said, I probably want to learn how to learn some more back end stuff. And I may end up going back to school to try to maybe get, do something as far as CS, computer science, because I would love to know how, I would love to go more in depth in it. Like, it's so much to all of this that I still don't know. So.
Nah, it's not worth it. Oh.
That's what everybody says. No, but that's why I would go back and do it. Like, I'm not gonna like stop what I'm doing now and do it. Like, no. But
Yeah.
I like to learn. So, but yeah, like everybody on my job, they have a CS degree. I don't. So that says a lot. Let's see. Anybody else? Dream code. Oh yeah, I wake up dreaming code a lot of days. Like I did that last week, and I think I figured something out like that.
I did
a lot of
too.
terms of
I
weight.
did too one time. I figured something out. I was like, oh my God, you're so stupid.
No, man, it's gonna happen a lot. I go home a lot of days feeling stupid, but I know I'm not. But that's what
Yeah, I
coding
mean,
does
yeah,
for
I
you.
know that, but I was like,
It makes
that's
you feel
it's like
that
simple mistakes, like I don't know, a bracket or something, something silly like that. I'm
it's
like,
always one of those
dude.
things.
Or I misspelled a word. I'm like, dude, come on now.
Capitalization. That's what
Yes,
gets a lot of y'all. Is capitalization.
Oh,
oh my gosh.
don't just wait. Just wait. Just wait till you get into these big lines of code and you're importing all kind of crap and you're like, oh, I imported one thing wrong. And that's why the entire application crashes.
Wow.
Yeah, and like you'll be like, it worked yesterday. It worked 5 minutes ago. Like you don't know why it's not working. Yeah.
Yeah, did that a couple times.
Yes, I have dreams that I'm teaching.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
Control Z until it works again. Oh, wait until you control Z all day long and it still doesn't do anything because what someone else changed is what's wrong with it and not what you changed.
Oh, and then you deleted everything.
I've been doing so today, all I've been doing is I haven't written any code today. I've just been like fixing merge conflicts all day. That's all I've been doing today because I've been pulling everybody else's code and it's been breaking my code and it's been got merge conflicts. So yeah, you have fun days like that. What's control Y? I don't know. Everybody's going off in the comment section.
Redo.
Say what?
Oh, I said that was redo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else? Because I'm about to get off in a second. I'm about to go home.
Oh, okay, nice. It's not even 4 o'clock yet.
Nope, it's not. I love my job.
I bet you do.
You got jobs, hiring. I do not offhand. I don't know of anyone offhand. We just finished hiring here, so we're not doing the hiring at the moment. What I would say do is if there are any events at the clubhouse, make sure you attend and connect with people that are working in these or other organizations. Make sure you're posting stuff. LinkedIn. I had a guy on LinkedIn reach out to me to do some freelance work. I wasn't able to because I didn't have the time, but he was like, hey man, I need somebody that's like a junior developer. I'm working on something. You mind helping me with it? You know what I mean? So, just make sure you're putting yourself out there and letting people see and know that you're looking for work. being vocal about it, and you're gonna run across something. Give us the LinkedIn. I think it's my name, Damian Dawson. I don't really be on LinkedIn much, so I don't know. That's not my favorite app to be on.
I hate LinkedIn.
It's
It is.
so rigid.
Yes. Ugh.
Damian Dawson. I mean, me and Morgan are connected on there, so I guess you can find people like that.
I don't know. It's not intuitive at all. I hate it.
Yeah.
I'll find you and I'll post it. Yeah, that is one thing,
Okay.
y'all. You guys do have my LinkedIn. Just go through and like be friends with all of my LinkedIn people because most of them are Clubhouse people, honestly. Like some of them are from my old jobs, but like 80% of them are,
Yeah.
Clubhouse people.
Yeah. Feel free to connect to me. Connect, not to connect to me, but connect with me on social media. And if you have any questions, I don't mind you reaching out to me anytime, asking. I like to help because that keeps me sharp too. So if you have any coding questions, even life questions, I'll try to help you with that. I can't promise you anything, but yeah, I don't mind. Okay. Do I have Twitter? Yes, I have Twitter. I'm on everything. Well, not everything. I'm on the main ones. And it's usually the same across all of them. It's either Damian Dawson or Damian Gerard. Like I know on Instagram, it'll be, or I think Twitter is the same too. So you can find me there.
How do I? Okay. Oh, this is not for Damien. I was just looking at someone's picture and it reminded me. Next Thursday, 10 to 12, we will have professional headshots of the clubhouse.
Oh, awesome.
I will remind you guys next week too. I was just looking at someone's picture because I was trying to find Damien's picture so I could find him.
What is your LinkedIn name? Morgan.
Damian
Oh,
Dawson.
I got you.
Mine's just Morgan Smith. I'll post it in Slack again though, because like
So plain.
there's probably a bajillion. How do I find my people? Okay.
Actually, you just popped up as the first name.
Wow. It knew.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Damien, for coming and talk.
You are welcome.
Thank you so much. It was very informative.
No problem. I'm glad it was. Man.
And fun. It wasn't boring.
Y'all have learned a very valuable skill and you can do a lot with it. Even if you do not get hired by an employer, this is, and I always tell people, even when I was a case manager, I was like, this is something that you can leverage on your own and you can freelance. You know what I mean? You can really turn it into something like either way. So, take advantage of it. That's the only thing I can tell you. And it's up to you to do that. So.
Yeah, definitely the people who have done the best are the people who really push themselves to do more.
Yeah, it's not gonna fall in your lap. So,
All right, let me pull up Slack real fast, and I'll Slack y'all's Damien stuff. Okay.
Slack.
Oh, is that my Twitter or is that my LinkedIn?
Twitter.
Oh, look, I don't even know my own Twitter handle, y'all.
Yeah.
Does Morgan have your email address, Damien?
Yes.
Do you
He's on Slack.
do you want to? Oh, you're on Slack?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just reach out to you there.
Yeah, I haven't been on it in a while. I just recently logged back in to Slack. I was looking. Where are you, Hardcore?
Probably buried.
Yeah.
I noticed that it'll get rid of your direct messages after a while.
That's because we have a account.
Yeah. I'm just gonna send you my email here.
Okay, I'm sending mine too.
All right, cool. I will start an email chain with you, and we can talk more. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah, for your homework for this weekend, it's Labor Day weekend. Y'all don't have any homework. Congrats. Take a break. Do your resumes.
I'm gonna go on that juice. What is it called?
Yeah, play with your shop. Yeah. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Take a break.
Alright,
Do your
well-
resume. Do your LinkedIn. Work on side projects. Take a nap.
Yes.
I'm out of here, y'all.
Oh no, I ain't taking no more naps. Last time I took a nap, I didn't wake up till 12.
All right. Do y'all have any questions for me before we wrap up?
So
Nope.
the SQL injection that was still giving us homework. You just had to fix it.
Yes, that homework will still be due. It'll be due like Tuesday.
Oh,
Okay, I got scared. I was like, no, let me make sure. Before
Yeah,
I don't
it'll
do it.
be. So like if you want to work on it over the weekend so you don't have to do it later, cool. And then Tuesday during the morning we will be doing a quiz over this week's content.
Ooh, it's been a while.
I know
yes.
it's been a while since we've done a quiz. So we'll do a quiz Tuesday. You guys will have the SQL homework on Tuesday. And then next week we're gonna wrap up that constructors thing real fast. Because it's a little bit intense, so I want to have plenty of time to do it. And then we will be doing just job skills the rest of the week and start to schedule your technical interviews. But we'll talk about that on Tuesday.
I have another question.
Yes.
So for this application that I was applying for, it's a full stack apprenticeship. It said I gotta send in a video, but I don't want to post my stuff online. So I was gonna ask
You
this.
can post YouTube videos as private and then share the link with them.
I think there's one other step with that because I did that for something and it didn't work. You can do public unlisted and it works that way, but I think with private you have to like give them something extra additional to that. Isn't that right?
I think so. There's 3 options on YouTube when you go to upload a video, and it's like public, private, and unlisted. And I think the unlisted one, you share the link with people, and then like you can't
Yep.
search for it, but
Exactly.
you share it. Okay, so
Yeah.
unlisted, not private.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Thanks,
just
'cause I was like,
publish it as unlisted, and that'll work.
It'd be weird just to have my video out there.
Also, it'll take forever on processing.
Yes,
I don't know
it
why.
literally takes me. I literally spend about an hour uploading videos every day.
Yep.
Which is why I get behind.
It's ridiculous. I don't know what it is, and it's like it's YouTube's end too, not your end. Like you send the whole video and then it'll process for like an hour.
Yeah, I don't know what it is because like it doesn't. I will say it's been a little bit faster if I go to the Clubhouse. So if you get on the Clubhouse's Ethernet, it's faster, but
Right.
not like a lot faster. Like just the upload process is faster. But yeah,
I do my recording at the clubhouse. Like I don't want to do it at my house.
you can do it at the Clubhouse. Yeah, just book. Send Chase a Slack message and be like, "Hey, I would like to, book a room," because you guys are members, so you get free like time for stuff, and so then you can book like the river room or one of the conference rooms and have a quiet, closed room with a nice background for video recording. So
Yeah,
just
I can show you. I'll be here too.
yeah.
Dun.
Yeah, so like you guys, that is one more thing. Just to wrap up real quick, is like you guys are members of Clubhouse for 9 months. So like you get a lot of stuff with that. So like it's not just like we throw you to the wolves, after the 18th. So like come to the meetups, be in the Slack, ask people questions, and like you guys can work out of that space, or like we're working on fixing the printer, so you guys have printer capabilities and scanning and like all that kind of stuff. So like you get a bunch of stuff with it.
That's the full stack apprenticeship. If you're interested, I think Shantiva posted it in Slack. That's who I got it from. I think it was Shantiva. But yeah, that's if you're interested.
ZZ, can you send me a Slack message to finish your letter?
Yes.
Because I don't have it done yet. I'll do it tonight. I'll finish and email it to you tonight, okay?
Okay.
Can we bring part with us, or do you need a membership too? It is open right now. Everybody does have to wear a mask. Shantava. I like it. you can bring people with you. Don't be like just like hanging out, and like if it's after hours, you can't have non-members with you. I mean, like, you know, you get your partner to like hang out with you while you print something, no big deal. You and your partner, you know, doing a 24-hour like work session on the laser cutter at 3 a.m. Maybe not so much. They need to be a member. But like, yeah, if you're bringing your people during normal business hours, you can. Yeah. If you want to rent space for non-clubhouse members to like come work with you, that's fine. That is a-okay. Like,
I'll be right back.
just be aware that like they're not supposed to be in the building after business hours, but they are extended business hours, so people can be in the building until like 7, and you have to wear a mask in the space. We do have clubhouse masks that my mom sewed, and Hardcore's mom. So we have masks. And then be sure to get your badges too, y'all. He's the one who drives. Yeah, totally. Like if you have people with you, it's not a big deal. Just don't like be throwing wild parties or like, you know, have like a people with you like after hours. Think of it like a college lab, you know, like you can be there during normal times and like you as a member are allowed to be there, but like, you know, don't throw wild parties in the ceramics lab. Yeah. Yeah, everybody has to be a member for, you know, wild ceramics parties. Oh. All right. That is all that I got. Remember, no class on Monday. I will be doing grades over the weekend, probably tomorrow afternoon, because I am wore out, y'all. So I'm probably going to take a nap, and that is probably going to be all that gets accomplished this afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Good.
I'll do all your grades tomorrow afternoon. Feel free to Slack me stuff. Text me if you need me to. Start applying for jobs, y'all. You're about done, so start applying for jobs. Yeah. That's all that I got for y'all. Hardcore has something. What do you got? And then we'll wrap up and be done.
It's just for you, Morgan. If I send you that list of email things, just do it whenever. But I'm going to send it to you in a minute. Okay. All right. Sounds good.
It's whack. It's okay. It's better than no resume. Come on. Yeah, get with Sarah. Sarah will help a lot. She's really good at making them nice. Or Donna. You also have Donna too. So you got plenty of resources after the holiday. Oh yeah, she does like to go to the beach. Sarah leaves a lot. She likes the beach. All right. Everybody have a nice whole 3-day weekend. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
You too. Bye, everyone.
Bye.